Good evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, WW7ATS. Western Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that take to the airways with fast scan television. We have a repeater located up on Cougar Mountain. We transmit on 70 centimeters. It's a crossband repeater and spits out images at 1.2 gigahertz. To find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, please Google WW7ATS. That's Google WW7ATS. That will take you to our homepage. There you'll find the exact frequencies we transmit and receive on, a little background on our organization, and also you'll find a link to YouTube where we stream our nets held on Wednesdays and Saturdays between 8 and 9 o'clock. Also, we'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR's repeater 147.08 with a specific tone of 103.5. Again, a specific tone of 103.5 for our nets. So with that, I'll pause in case anybody has emergency traffic or needs to make a contact before the net gets fully underway. This is Dave, KD7CYM. N7KC. Welcome to the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. This is Dave, KD7CYM. Signed in by video link already is Ron, KD7QKU, Lee, N7KC, Bob, K9PQ, Richard, K7ITX, Jim, N7QO, and myself, Dave, KD7CYM. If there's anybody else that wishes to check into the net.
I have information on James. He is feeling under the weather and will not be joining us tonight. K9PQ, back to net.
That is KD7CYM. Well, let's start the net off with Roy, Ron, KD7QKU.
Hey, thank you, Dave. Hello, good evening to everybody. Ron, KD7QKU here. Well, it seems like I never have much to talk about anymore. Went to the grocery store today. Came back from the grocery store and the power company was out front. They replaced two poles on the street. One of them was farther up, and they'd been working on that the last couple of days, and then I guess they moved on to the one kind of near my property line with the neighbor. So they had their trucks in front of our driveway, and we had to bring the groceries in through the gate out by the motorhome. And then, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock, I guess they quit and went home. So anyway, that's the big excitement. Well, I spent about an hour on the telephone today with our medical insurance company, wondering why they didn't want to cover this pill. Just antacid pill, nothing very glamorous. Walgreens told me that they refused to cover it or something without what do you call it, authorization or something. So I called them and they didn't know what Walgreens was talking about. They said it's a tier 1 pill. It's nothing requires any authorization. So he said, give me the pharmacy number. So I did. And then he said, hang on a minute. And so he, what seemed like forever, then the guy called, talked to me. He said, you still there? Yeah, no, I talked to him. I don't know what they were doing, but your medicine will be ready in a few minutes. So I don't know what Walgreens had something messed up. So that's my excitement for the day. So back to net, KD7QKU.
KD7QKU. Well, let's go to Lee, N7KC, and find out how dry it is in Port Angeles.
Okay, Lee here, N7KC in Port Angeles. Well, pretty dry. You know, we're just not getting the rain that everybody else is getting still. I don't know what to say, you know. The snowpack is really low. There was an article in the paper here last week that it was 1/3 of normal at Hurricane Ridge. They have 2 feet up there and they can't even ski on it. And here it's projected that the next several months, 2 or 3 months, are going to be warmer and wetter than usual. I think is the way they put it, but I don't know. Anyway, we could use a good snowpack, but I don't think we're going to have it. Probably not so much for water around the house, but it's the problem with the dryness here and the lack of water is the possibility of wildfires. You know, it's getting to be a big deal. Wherever you have these kind of conditions, it's getting to be a really big deal. And there's just an awful lot of trees in Port Angeles, you know. Something got started here, I don't know. I don't think they can put it out. Normally, we're so close, we're only a couple hundred feet off the water, and the humidity is generally well above the cutoff of, 30% for logging, you know. But the last couple of years, it's getting really pretty low. That's kind of scary. I don't really have a whole lot. I don't have a lot of ammo tonight. I don't have any videos to show. Well, of course, that's my problem. I've got a good camera. It just seems that I can never seem to pull that off these days. So anyway, Dave, back to you. Good to see everybody tonight, by the way. You all looking good. This is N7KC, Lee in Port Angeles. Go ahead, Dave.
N7KC, thanks for that weather report, more or less. Let's go to Bob, K9PQ in Bothell.
Hey, well, good evening to everyone. As a contrast to your dry weather, I got an update on my niece who lives in Los Angeles, and they got 7 to 8 inches of rain in one day. They did lose power for, I think, about 12 hours at one point, but they didn't have anything worse than that. And in fact, her husband drove to work, so things were reasonably normal for them, but they didn't leave the house while it was raining hard. They've got a very young child, maybe 6 months old, less than 6 months old, somewhere around there. So they just stayed in, and I just got a picture today, my sister forwarded to me, of taking their little baby Aiden out in the stroller, and he seemed to be very happy to be outside again. So things are getting back to normal there. I did also see an article. I didn't read the article, so I don't know the details, but it was mentioning the snowpack being low, and I think it was generally for this whole area, and the expectation that it's not going to get better, similar to what you were saying, Lee, I don't know if they expect it to be dry or too warm or what exactly, but they don't expect it to get better. So I think we're going to all be dealing with that to one degree or another through this summer. Yeah, Ron, that's wild about the pharmacy. I'm glad. I was busy doing something. I wasn't sure I followed it completely. It sounded like you got your doctor to straighten out the pharmacy, maybe. And anyway, I'm glad you got that straightened out, because that could sure be a pain. Well, I don't have anything a whole lot interesting going on here, as you can tell, because I'm talking about everything else but me. But I'm doing okay here, and I think I'll leave that for now, and maybe I'll think of something by next time. Back to K9PQ.
9PQ, let's go to Richard in Kent, K7ITX.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer, Ron. I know what that can be like. But fortunately now, I have my own farm on the 20th. Very sweet lady. Last time I talked to her, the camera, was a video link, and didn't get to see her. The last time I saw her, or the first time I met her, she didn't have a mask on. Second time, then she came back with a mask. But in the video link, you don't have to have a mask. Unfortunately, she had the camera where I could only see half her face. She finally, towards the end, she adjusted it, and I go, yeah, that's the lady I remember. So I'm just looking forward to talking to her a lot now. I mean, geez. Well, this isn't the insurance investigator. Well, no, it isn't. I never got to see what she looked like, but this is the actual pharmacist that is taking care of me right now. Yeah, no, pretty exciting with the power company. I never thought I'd see the day when power poles would, snap at the base and come tumbling. When one goes, the next one goes. It's kind of weird how they pull each other down like that. I experienced that in my own neighborhood probably about 25 years ago when I lived in Portland during an ice storm, probably one of the biggest ice storms I think they ever had. I can't imagine, the ice on everything about at least an inch thick, and nothing can handle that, or more than an inch. People were ice skating on the streets, it's just craziness. So anyway, that's that. And, gee, Lee. Yeah, the thought of 30% of normal snowpack at Hurricane Ridge, that's I don't even live by you, and I'm scared. Can you imagine if that place went up like that? The smoke and, the resources, the whole state would have to kind of chip in a deal like that. That wildfire business, that's really out of my mind, really. But I guess it shouldn't be. So my excitement has been, my downward trend in my, we were talking about those oximeters last meeting, and so, I told you how I use mine quite well. For me, I don't have the most expensive type, so it's not going to be always purely right, accurate to the exact percentage. But I've noticed that it's really good in getting down to the lows and getting up to the highs. It doesn't get stuck, really. So the problem being is I see a trend. And the trend is where maybe, just say a year ago, I could get up from where I'm sitting right now, go get a cup of coffee, some out of the refrigerator, come back, and now that's a nice, Bob's showing me a very nice oximeter. Here's my cheap little thing for, I don't know, probably when I bought it might have been $30, but I have a feeling Bob spent a little bit more. I guess I really should spend $100 on one, or $150. Saying I can see a trend. I used to be able to get up a year ago and go to the kitchen, come back to the seat, and still have normal oxygenated blood in the 90s, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, percent. Where now I get up and go to the kitchen and come back, sit down, and sometimes I can't be surprised if it's 80 or quite often it's 85, and then I'll elect to do pursed lip breathing and like I told the doctor just 2 days ago or yesterday, that I can bring it back into the 90s in 30 to 90 seconds. However, that's getting very annoying, very tiring. And to make matters worse, I've got a trip scheduled the end of March to Phoenix, Arizona by air. I could drive, but I want to be nice to get there quicker by air. One problem though, when you're in a jet airliner, I'm dealing with atmosphere of 7,000 feet. And I can't remember, I think like the percent of oxygen at sea level is, if I remember correctly, it's right around maybe 24%, or it's in the 20s, mid-20s. 7,000 feet, how about 17%? So, got me thinking that I might not be doing so good, because I remember even last year coming back, I remember doing my oximeter and I go, oh no, it was like 88 or 89 when I hadn't been paying attention. So I, kicked my special breathing into gear. But I didn't. The thought of having to do that really intense breathing for 3 hours is not very appealing. Did one of those messages on my chart to my pulmonologist and my team there at UW, and I suggested HAST, High Altitude Simulation Test, and their response was, that's a great idea. Come in on the 22nd of February, and we'll do the test. But I also know that if I fail, I'm going to be looking at a new piece of equipment, especially for the trip. So an oximeter is the only thing you can have on what am I saying, oximeter? An air concentrator. Oxygen concentrator is the only thing that they allow on a jet airliner, where you just stick it under your seat. So unfortunately, as life goes on, that's a new crossroad for me. But now I'm even more convinced that I need a new set of lungs so I don't have to deal with this anymore. So that should be happening, I don't know, a year from now. Yeah, I hope so. I really do. I'll enjoy the nice weather down there while it's all happening, and make my way back, and have the doctors in communication, and they work together with the people at the UW. They work together with the people in Phoenix, so that shouldn't be a problem. It's just the whole process is going to be quite an experience. But anyway, next on the agenda, high altitude simulation test. K7ITX, back to net control.
K7ITX, and again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. I'm Dave, KD7ZYM for an ID. Well, let's move on down the list and go to Jim, N7QO in Covington.
N7QO. Thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Well, Bob, thank you for mentioning that Bellevue Jim is not feeling very well. The last net, it seemed like he definitely needed to take it easy a little bit, so we'll say some prayers for him. Ron, power company, power poles, wow. They needed to replace a power pole here by my house, actually for pretty much the entire neighborhood here. Several months ago, I don't remember exactly what month it was. November, was it before Thanksgiving or between Thanksgiving and Christmas? Anyway, it was only a single pole which they had to replace, and the power was down in our whole neighborhood for, I don't remember now. I wrote it down somewhere. Seems to me about 5 hours or so. Wasn't a problem for us, of course, because I've got a generator, but a lot of people, I'm sure, were having some problems there, at least for a short period of time. Your prescription, Walgreens, I wonder if maybe you had to change your prescription because you moved or something. I know, like where we live, the closest drugstore to us was a Rite Aid, but guess what? It is closed. And then there was a Bartell's between where I live and where Dick lives, and they closed it. And then the Walgreens, there's a Walgreens by us, but a lot of people had to change their prescriptions, and the Walgreens had a big sign out front saying, "Welcome to those of you from Rite Aid or Bartell's." So, I don't know. Things have gone crazy in this world. But I'm glad you got that resolved anyway. Let's see, Lee, still dry in PA. My goodness. Well, I don't know. I was wondering for a while about moving to Arizona. I honestly was concerned that it might be a little bit too dry there, or might run into a shortage of water, because when I lived there back in the 70s, there were places where I could fly and I can see the Colorado River look more like a Colorado Creek by the time it made its way down to parts of Arizona, and I'm sure it's bound to be worse than that now. So Port Angeles was a consideration. Maybe I should take Port Angeles off the list of places to consider. I don't know. We will see. But if I knew a rain dance to do, I'd do it. Although my wife says usually to get me to dance requires some adult beverages, so I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Bob, let me reset. Bob, 7 to 8 inches of rain in one day in Los Angeles. Wow. I know when I moved to Houston, when I first got there in the late 70s, there was some pretty bad flooding. I think it was like 1979. There were actually people water skiing on the interstate between Houston and Conroe. Kind of interesting. So I knew to buy a house that was on high land. And in fact, there were recent rains in the Houston area where I have friends there who got flooded a bit. So, strange how some areas can have an overabundance of water and some places are really short. Kind of undesirable. We need to even things out so everyone gets their fair share. Dick, pulse oximeter. Yeah, I don't know. I know your lungs are a little worn. I know, like, for me, I could take a pulse oximeter, and if it's a little bit low, all I have to do is take about 3 good breaths, and I'm right up there. I don't know, you said something about it takes a while for you to get back. Well, you may at least have some oxygen available. I have a friend who had to have oxygen whenever he went upstairs, so he, let me reset again. He kept an oxygen bottle at the top of his stairway, and when he would get to the top, he'd sit down and take a few hits of oxygen before he was able to proceed further. He died this past year, unfortunately. And as far as the high altitude test, I don't know. I'm not sure if the doctors are recommending that or what. I'm not exactly sure what they'll tell you on that. But a word of caution: different airlines have different regulations regarding what they will allow on an airplane and what they will not. The thought used to be that as long as it's something which is FAA approved, then you're good, but I don't believe that's exclusively the case anymore. We used to have on some of our airplanes special seats where you could actually plug into the aircraft oxygen system and use that. So the flight attendants would give you a mask, and you just had to sit in special seats. That's worth investigating, because that way it would eliminate the need for you to have anything. You just require the special seat. And some places, like bottles, I don't recall seeing people with the oxygen generators when I was still working, but that was a few years ago. So we did not allow just any bottle of oxygen on the aircraft. It had to be a special one, and it wasn't necessarily a matter of whether the bottle is FAA approved or not. So just something to investigate with the individual airlines. A couple of things there. And good luck with that. And Bob, I see that it looks like a castle, so it must be that one friend's house that you visited. Thanks for that. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
N7QO, thanks for that. And we'll get a quick ID here again. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society. Met on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM for an ID. Well, I got good news from my brother today. He got a call from his medical team saying that 97% of the donor cells have engaged into his bone marrow at this point, and basically they say anything above 50% is good, 90 to 100% is fantastic. So now all he has to do is just keep from getting sick as his immunity system starts building back up. So still pretty much confined to home and wearing a mask with any visitors or that, but he does have to go in once a day to get an infusion of, let's see, magnesium of all things. He does a magnesium infusion. It takes about an hour every day, so that he still has to do. And anyway, I think he's on his way to being mended, so that's, I think, very good. Well, here it's 42 degrees, overcast. I got my taxes finally sent off today, so that is taken care of for the year. So I do get a little refund, but then I got a slip of mail that said my automobile insurance is due coming up in another month. So I guess that sort of negates what I get back. Turn around and use that for automobile insurance, but it's nice to have a little reserve anyway. But that's out of the way, and hopefully everything is shipshape after going through an accountant. When I looked at the paperwork, oh man, there was a lot of numbers involved and about 5 pages of paperwork, and I'm not privileged to what all of it is, but anyway, it comes down to I did get a little refund, so, and that's being eaten up by automobile insurance, but hopefully it will arrive about the same time the automobile insurance is due. So this is Dave, KD7CYM in Lake City. So let's go back up to Ron, KD7QKU.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dave. Well, wow, that's really good news on Don. Sounds like he's going to be back to normal, sort of to say, in not too long from now. And Richard, that was interesting what you had to say about your oxygen level, about flying. I never thought about that, but I can see where that could be a problem. And Jim N7Q, my problem was that we had Humana medical insurance and we switched to Aetna. And this was the first time this prescription had been filled under Aetna. And it was Walgreens that was all messed up. It wasn't. I had to call Aetna and talk to them, and they said there was no whatever it is needed for that medication, which is a tier 1, just an ordinary old antacid pill. Said there shouldn't be no problem at all. But I'd been trying for about a week to get it straightened out, and Walgreens had suggested that I call the insurance company. So I did. Taken an hour, the time you jump through all the hoops. You know, the first person I got said, oh yeah, I can take care of that. Well, when it got right down to it, they couldn't, so then they had to transfer the call. And then I had to wait and wait and wait. And after, like I say, almost an hour on the phone, I finally got a hold of somebody that knew about the pharmacy, and he said, give me your drugstore, pharmacy number, and I'll call them and get this straightened out for you. So we did. I thought that was pretty nice. I didn't like the fact that I'd been on my phone for an hour. So let's see. Oh, the poles they're putting in out here is kind of interesting. So we have we're underground, everything in the housing development here is underground. But the poles go by, the power goes by in front of my house along the street. And so the poles carry everything. They carry, I don't know what all they carry. But the poles right now aren't really too tall. And they're putting in really big, tall poles, and they're moving what I would call the high tension wires up on those. And then they're cutting the other old pole off so it's shorter, and they're leaving what I guess is the local stuff on the old pole. It's kind of strange. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if they can stretch the big high tension wires, about 10 or 20 feet. It's probably about 20 feet higher than they were before on these new poles. These poles are really tall. And I don't know exactly why they're doing it, but I'm sure they have a reason. And Lee, it's too bad about your water supply. So, yeah, all the reports I see look like we're going to be have a warm, dry summer again here in the Northwest, so that's not going to be good. Anyhow, fire danger is always a big problem. So, let's see. I guess that's about it. I didn't make very many notes. So anyway, well, it's always fun listening to you guys and see what everybody's up to. So I guess back to net, KD7QKU.
7QKU. Let's WW7KC in Port Angeles.
Okay, here we go again. I hope I'm getting in okay. Well, water is a big deal. You know, what's really been fun, I've kept a very detailed rain record here, for going on 9 years now. And a couple of years ago, I bought a Stratus Precision Rain Gauge. Best thing I ever did. My goodness. The Fairchild International Airport National Weather Service station is about 3/4 of a mile to my south. And over 2023, mostly I was only at variance within that by sometimes 0.01 inches, 10 milli-inches. Oops, losing me? Oh, okay. Sorry. Maybe I didn't push the right button. Am I in now? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was saying that that I'm about 3/4 of a mile north of the official National Weather Service station at Fairchild International Airport here. And so I got a hold of their annual by the month, their annual weather summaries for the last 20 years. And over the last couple of years, I've only been at variance by about 10 milli-inches on the month of scale. Every now and then it'll be a little bit more. But the Stratus rain gauge, the precision rain gauge I bought, which was under $40, I think it was 38 or something, is just a phenomenal gauge. And if you ever want to get a really good rain gauge, get the Stratus Professional. Very, very nice. Okay, that's it from here. Back to you, Dave. N7KC, Lee in Port Angeles.
KC, thanks with that. Well, let's get a quick ID here again. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to Bob, K9PQ in Bothell.
Okay, let me get myself switched in there. There we go. Well, Lee, thanks, for that information on the Stratus Precision Rain Gauge Pro. I got to write Pro in here. Because I don't have anything like that. I bought, one of those little wedge-shaped ones so that it gives you more accuracy the less rain that has fallen, and then as more falls, the accuracy is not quite as good. But you have to dump it every time, and it would get dirty, and it just wasn't worth it. I stopped using it. So I'll look into that, especially if it's not very expensive. That sounds interesting. Well, let's see. I did make some notes. Yeah, my pulse oximeter, I think it's about the same as yours, maybe just has a better display, Richard. It's, and I looked up on my Amazon purchase history, it cost me $33, and I bought it at the start of COVID, because, that was one of the things that they were describing that with COVID, that, your oxygen level fell, and so I think we've learned since then that if it gets to that point, you have all kinds of other things going on too. So you're gonna know you have COVID long before you check your oxygen level. But anyway, that was the reason I bought it. Now I use it as just to monitor my pulse while I'm exercising. It works very nicely for that. Yeah, the water. So you mentioned, I think, Richard, the water, or no, maybe it was Jim. The water in the Southwest. All the difficulties with water down there, and I've kind of been interested in New Mexico recently. And one thing I learned is with Albuquerque, they don't have any concerns of water the same as all the rest of the Southwest, because Albuquerque is right on top of a huge aquifer, and so and apparently, I mean, I don't know how this works exactly with aquifers, but apparently this is one that the other states can't steal. There's always the concern about stealing water from one state to the other, or procuring water from one state to the other, and who should get how much. But with Albuquerque, they're all in good shape there. Yeah, and also the generator. I learned when I moved in here, they do not. It's one of the very few things that was in our bylaws where they put it right in there. No generators on your deck, and they just. I'm not sure why exactly. Maybe noise. Who knows what the reason might be? But or maybe it's more of like an insurance thing, like it would cause havoc with the umbrella insurance. Whatever the case may be, they don't allow it. And so I don't have a generator. I have an extended battery, lithium-ion, very large lithium-ion battery that will work for a while, but very limited compared to a generator, and you can't just refill it. Let me break. Dave, that's great news about Don. I'm really happy to hear that. I haven't heard him in a very long time, but I used to enjoy hearing him on the radio, and I'm glad to hear he's doing well there. Ron, something I'm curious about with the poles. So you said you have underground wiring, but you've got poles going by. I assume that I don't know where your situation is, where you live within your neighborhood. Maybe you're at the edge of your neighborhood or something, but I'm curious why they would still have poles going by. I mean, I see for the high tension wires, but I would have thought for all the local stuff you wouldn't have poles. Anything else? Let's see. I thought I had something else. Oh, just the ice. My sister lives in Vancouver, so they get the same ice storms that Portland gets, and it's a regular occurrence there. And some years are worse than others, but it's kind of that weird climate that they are in, that rather than getting snow like we get here, they'll get ice, and they did just earlier this winter, and you do not leave the house when that ice is there unless you're on skates or a sled or something. Okay, well, I'll send it back. This is K9PQ, Bob.
Thank you. Thanks with that. Let's go to K7ATS, Richard in Kent.
Yeah, that is great news, Dave, about your brother Don. So, yeah, that's a happy thing for sure. And let's see. Oh, yeah, Covington Jim. Yeah, I've did some research because I knew the oxygen level is not as high in a plane, and so I'm kind of zeroed in on Alaska Airlines. That they do not allow oxygen bottles. I'm pretty sure probably none of them allow oxygen bottles anymore. Ever since the concentrators have become more technically advanced, and I think they're quieter and smaller, and so yeah, I've looked very carefully into that, to the point where that's how I found out about the high altitude simulation test. Oh yeah, the pulmonologists know all about it, or at least that UW knew right away, and thought it was a great idea that I even mentioned it. So, so they're all, in fact, as soon as I have the test, I go in and see the director for interstitial lung disease right away and discuss the next steps. So whether that involves my Medicare or money out of my own pocket, I have to play that by ear. It's kind of it's a dance when it comes to all that kind of stuff. Medicare is great, though. I mean, they pay for a bundle of things, but once you get into, things that maybe a little bit more advanced than they're used to, sometimes you gotta pay for your own stuff. But we'll see. Whatever it is, I'm ready. I've been saving my nickels and dimes and pennies. I knew this day was coming, so it's no big surprise. And let's see. Oh yeah, and you mentioned the Colorado River. Yeah, that poor river seemed crazy. I guess that's the main water supply for the city of Los Angeles. I know, when they were building all the infrastructure to steal, for California to steal all the water, I don't mean to say that, but that's what California did, though. They built the infrastructure, but in the process, they had a big screw up, I guess, was it around 1910 or 1920, where the canal that they built sprung a leak, and that's how come we have the Salton Sea now. The biggest lake in California is as a result of a screw up by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so the Colorado River did not run into the ocean for about, I think it was like 4 or 5 years, just ran straight into this old prehistoric lake bed. And that's where I had a cabin there, and it's just beautiful. I loved it there. There's a lot of tilapia, and the birds, oh my God, the bird refuge. Now all the pelicans, you name it, they just love that place now. So, but it is slowly evaporating. They got to do something about it, because if they let it just go dry, you got a lot of poisonous dust that the people in Palm Springs aren't going to appreciate. So it's in fact, it was quite a setback. People aren't aware of this, but it might not be the problem it is today if only Sonny Bono, you remember Sonny and Cher? Well, he was the mayor of Palm Springs for a while, and then he was in the House of Representatives, where he was really a strong proponent of bringing in, pumping in, or somehow getting ocean water into the Salton Sea to help refreshen it. But he died, and all that kind of got put to the side. But now it's a serious issue. Oh, and then so what they do now, not only do a lot of people in California drink the Colorado River water, by the Salton Sea where I had my cabin, Raleigh, California is a big agricultural region where when they irrigate, it's not just normal irrigation like we might be used to around here for wheat fields and stuff. Down there, they flood the fields completely. It's just acres and acres of water in fields. Just totally, it's not the best way or the efficient way to use water, from what I understand, because basically you just turn thousands of acres of farmland into like the swamps. It's real kind of swampy, and a lot, just because of that, a lot of guys bring their, they have a bird hunting competition. They bring their hunting dogs down there just because of these fields that have been flooded by the Colorado River irrigation system. Top it off with just a quick report on Grindavik. The cracks have really split the city apart. I don't know if you remember when I was showing one video where you could see that soccer field in the city. Well, the cracks have gone through the gymnasium, through the soccer field. The AstroTurf is all torn apart now, and these are not just simple sinkholes and cracks that we might be used to. These are deep crevices down, I wouldn't say down to the mantle, but it's, you know, pretty much death if you fall down into one of these cracks. And then, oh, and by the way, the lava tube, what do they call them? The magma underground chambers are plumb full underneath Grindavik right now, and so they are just waiting for it to burst. Literally any day now. I keep hearing this. Hasn't happened yet, but boy, the signs are there, and what a disaster for those poor people. So with that, K7ITX and 73 back to net control.
ITX. Let's go to W7ATL in Tacoma.
This is W7ATL in Tacoma, and not a lot going on. Today we had a pretty uneventful day, other than I got a text from one of my people at my work, HR, saying, "Hey, we got an offer for you," and came out of the blue. I didn't know it was coming. And they offered me the senior role in my department, so got a pretty nice bump on the pay. So that was my highlight of the day, and so I've been kind of gleaming on that. Besides that, just working on a few projects here at home, and still doing the retro stuff. So I've been kind of soldering and stuff and having fun. But besides that, I'm just kind of relaxing tonight. Just got done eating, had a little Taco Bell with the family, and just chilling here. So this is it for my round. I don't know how much. Oh, we only got 7 more minutes, so I probably won't get to be in the next round. So 73, everybody. W7ITL back to net.
ITL, thanks for that. Let's go to Jim in 7QO.
In 7QO, thank you, Dave. Well, Dave, yeah, that is great news about Don, and staying home and avoiding people is good, other than when he has to go out. Boy, magnesium, I should investigate what that's for in our body. I don't know, it's just another one of those things. And congratulations on getting your taxes done. I hope someone remembers to remind me in a month or so that I need to work on mine. I still have to make sure that I have everything I need. I just got one thing that showed up, like above the local thing. It seems